Welcome to Coping Together, Mental Health Association of Central Florida's live web series dedicated to helping you develop coping strategies and wellness tools related to COVID-19, as well as talk about mental health. Coping Together was created in response to COVID-19's mandatory social distancing orders. This show seeks to learn and educate. We do not speak for any particular group. Overall, Coping Together serves as a platform through which we can demystify and unpack mental health concepts and hear from experts in the field. Please note that this show may discuss sensitive topics, including but not limited to sexual assault, suicide, and various traumas. If you find yourself feeling upset or struggling during any episode, listen to your body and pause the input. We will post related resources. Remember, it's okay to get help.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Coping Together. I'm your host, Faith, with the Mental Health Association of Central Florida. As always, excited to bring on mental health professionals to talk about topics related to COVID-19, mental health, and anything you can think of in that realm. So today we're actually talking about, it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. One of the things we wanted to talk about here on Coping Together this week was actually healthy relationships. And I'm very happy to bring back on people from the Victim Service Center of Central Florida. So with me today is Emilie Mitchell, the Education Coordinator, and Monique Bennett, who is a victim advocate and crisis counselor. So thank you both for being here. How are you today?
Great.
I'm doing good. Thanks for having us. Excited to be back on, Faith. It's always good to partner with the Mental Health Association. And if you hear cars, it's because I'm in the office today, so sorry.
If you hear a dog barking, it's probably my dog.
Okay.
So,
I was going to say the same thing. My little fur baby's here.
It's the reality of, I think, working from home, or in your case, being in the office.
Being in the corner.
It always happens.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will go ahead and get started. And so, again, our topic today is healthy relationships. And I think before we can really go into the components of that, it's important for me to ask you both, what does it mean to have a healthy relationship? And, why is it important?
Yeah, so one of the trainings that I do in the community is actually on healthy relationships. And it's a really good question. And I think we'll be kind of breaking it down as we move forward in this conversation. But essentially, when I think of a healthy relationship, it consists of everyone feeling safe in the relationship in a variety of different ways, safe to share their feelings, safe physically. There's boundaries in there within the relationship as well. And there's a lot of respect too. And you're an individual as well as a partnership too. And I don't know if you want to jump in, Monique, but those are kind of the main things I think.
I'm excited that you said that, because when I thought about it, that was one of the main things, the boundaries. When you're in a healthy relationship, the two, or it doesn't have to be two, it could be multiple people, family, those are all relationships. So I'm not just speaking on, a relationship where it's a couple per se, because it's important that we have healthy relationships in general, whether they're mutual, or romantic. So boundaries is important, knowing that the person respects your boundaries, and also that you have open communication. The same thing, you feel safe, you feel free. That would be a word that I would say is important to me. I have to be free to be myself. So meaning I don't have to feel like there are areas of my individual being that I have to hide from you. So if the relationship is healthy, then I should be able to freely communicate with you about how I feel, what I'm experiencing, or what I'm going through, and not feel like I have to worry about what your perception of me is going to be, or what your response is going to be, whether that's going to be unhealthy. So that's what I think about when I think of a healthy relationship. You're just open and free to be yourself. You're free to display your characteristics and your personality at all times.
I love that. I love that you say the word free, and I love that you apply it to just to all our relationships in our lives. I like to do that in my trainings too, where I think a lot of times people think of just intimate partners, but really we have relationships all around us, and there are healthy and unhealthy components to them. And they can all be applied to that, like to coworkers, to friends, to families. I think a lot of times when we think of families, we forget that there's boundaries there too,
right?
That are really important. And as to why it's important to have a healthy relationship is, I think what you were saying, Monique, is we need to be our genuine selves. We have a right to feel safe, and we do need relationships in our lives to help support us. And if we find ourselves in an unhealthy relationship, that could be really draining. And we could talk a little bit more about, what we can do later on if we do find ourselves in that. But yeah, we all deserve to have healthy relationships.
Thank you. And so that kind of is a good transition into my next question, which is, what are some of the key criteria or components of a healthy relationship? We've talked about that aspect of why it's important, but what are the key components of having one?
Well, I would start by saying that definitely a main key component is that you have open communication. You need to be able to express yourself at all times, no matter whether it's a tough conversation that you need to have or it's an easy one. But most of the time, I think that's when relationships can become tricky, is when it's something that may touch on your emotions or your feelings or something that you've experienced, and then you need to try to talk about that. So the things that cause little kinks along your smooth path, I would say, is when you need to be able to talk about that. So communication is definitely a key component, I would say, in a healthy relationship.
Yes, I love everything that you're saying. And communication, I can go and probably for like a very long time on good tips to it. I think one of the main ones is, finding the right time. Also, I watched this webinar once about how communication is like playing catch, like baseball, and how you don't want to throw the baseball really aggressively at someone because then they won't catch it, but then they also have to be open to catching it too. So I feel like that was a really great way to look at communication, where both people need to be open and not very aggressive about it. And I'll talk a little bit later about that, but definitely communication. I also want to talk about, respect too. Shared power is really important. Compromise too. Those are some of the key components that come to mind when I think of healthy relationships, what they really need. Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like it's very much a two-way street to have a healthy relationship. Like, it's not just about, like, yes, it's about you, obviously, because you're the person, but you also have to be willing to give that same amount of respect, care, communication to your significant other as well. Or even, like you said, your family, your friends. I'm not having conversations with my dog, but she's really important too. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. So, what questions can we ask ourselves to ensure that we're being a good partner or a good, again, if it's that family role or friend, like how are we being a positive contributor to that relationship?
Do you want to start?
No, go ahead.
Okay. What I think about, these are questions that I often ask myself, because I feel like you're always improving on making and developing relationships, and keeping them healthy, because, we grow and we change over time. And so, you have to keep your relationship fresh. And so with those changes, you need to be able to continuously be able to address whatever needs that you have. So, but I feel like it's important that you have the ability to assess yourself. So you need to ask yourself, are you giving what you're looking for? So if I'm in a relationship, whether it's with friends or someone else that I'm interested in romantically, am I giving that person the same amount of time? Like, if I need time, because, they talk about love languages and things like that.
I was just about to ask you about love languages, actually. Like, hearing you say that immediately made me go to love languages. Real quick.
So think that
I'm sorry. You're good. I was just going to say real quick, because we're on that topic, can you explain to our audience what the love languages are, or what it means about them?
Okay, well, there's this book out that talks about love languages, and it actually has a test, because it says we have certain needs that we need to be fulfilled, and it's either touch or some of us are like gift giving is like something that we enjoy. Time, like quality time is important to us in a relationship. So you may need quality time from someone. And so what it does is it asks you these questions to see where your personality or character is geared towards, that makes you feel like your needs are being met in a relationship. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that your partner needs are going to be in the same area. So it's important. That's why I say it's important for us to assess, and also to be able to assess that, am I giving my partner what they need? Not if I'm just receiving, because then that will make it one-sided, and then it won't be balanced, and then someone will feel like their needs are not being fulfilled. So that's why making sure you're assessing if you're a giver will help you stay on a good side in a healthy relationship, so you can have balance. What would you say, Emilie?
No, I love everything that you're saying. I also wanted to acknowledge that while you were talking, I was thinking, yeah, relationships are all different too. Mm-hmm. So I want to acknowledge that there are poly relationships. So there's not just like two people too. There can be multiple people in a relationship. I also think in regards to what to ask yourself, when I'm conversing with someone, for example, am I attacking them? Right? That's like a question that I ask. And that's something that you might not even mean to do. Mm-hmm. Instead of using like I statements, you might be doing you statements, like you do this and it makes me upset. You blah, 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 right? It just kind of, you could feel your partner or your friend's walls go up while you're talking to them. And then they just, there's no communication then. So I try to do I statements. Like, I feel this way when you're on your phone, when we're talking. Yes. So could you, kind of do that. And also reflecting what they're saying to you. Like, I'm hearing that you're frustrated when I do this. Is that right? Just kind of making sure you're understanding what they're saying. So that's when I also would ask myself, like, am I the one making all the decisions? Is there not like shared power going on there? Those are some questions that I have. Or do I make them feel safe, or do I feel safe? And then with boundaries, this is kind of, I think it's making sure that, like, am I respecting my partner's boundaries? But also, what are my boundaries, and kind of exploring that. And that's actually can be a hard introspective thing sometimes. I think it's a question that we don't ask ourselves enough. So if you're ever feeling frustrated or feeling resentful, it's probably a sign that you need to make a boundary, and just kind of think about what that is. Try to communicate it as respectfully and as succinct as possible. And also, you'll probably feel a little guilty the first time that you make a boundary. It's completely natural to do that, to feel that, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't make it. It's important to make sure that you feel safe and that your friend is feeling safe with you too. So those are just some tips about boundaries and communication I got. But yeah, I love this love language conversation too. Yes. I don't know what mine is. So I'll have to take it.
You can take the test online. Yes.
All right. I know what I'm doing tonight.
I'll see if we can put it, I'll see if we can put a link to it in the comments. I'll try really hard to remember. But if not, you can just find it on Google. You just type in love languages. I highly recommend the book as well. So it sounds like, and I'm just kind of clarifying or, asking you to elaborate. So boundaries it's not just about the physical. It's not just about like having that safe space personally, like your personal bubble, but it almost like we have a personal bubble internally as well. We have those like those topics that we don't want to cover with family or, see, that's my dog crying right there.
Love it.
But so can you elaborate on that a little bit for me?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different boundaries. The ones that I cover in my trainings are digital boundaries. So that includes, maybe you want to take a night off from texting or something, or, no one should be kind of going through your text messages without your consent. So those boundaries. I also like to talk about boundaries as emotional boundaries too. For example, it's always good to have those friends that you reach out to for support, for example. Mm-hmm. However, they're not always ready for that emotional bandwidth for you to pour onto. So you could just be like, hey, I had a really rough day. I kind of want to talk about it with you. Are you okay to like take on that burden? And they have a right to say, you know what, today is not a great day. Let's have a conversation tomorrow, that kind of thing. And also, going back to those emotional boundaries and making boundaries, you're not responsible for someone's reaction to the boundary that you're setting. So that's really important too. It's their problem if they're upset at the boundary that you're setting. You have to just take care of yourself. And then, of course, we have the physical boundaries of maybe social distancing right now, for example. That's a boundary. Or where do I want to meet? Or I'd feel more comfortable with you wearing a mask right now. So we could even talk about COVID boundaries too.
Hey, right. That's what we do here on Coping Together. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Monique.
Yeah, I just thought that it was important to point out, like, just like you were saying, like when I'm setting these boundaries, part of a healthy relationship is that we can talk about it. And even though you are upset, I can understand that you have a right to express how you feel about my boundary, but it doesn't necessarily mean I have to change the boundary. So with the healthy communication is that even though there's good dialogue, we can say, listen, we can talk about it, but it doesn't necessarily mean always that I'm going to agree with it. And I think that's a big point to have when it comes to healthy relationships, is knowing that it doesn't mean you always agree with everything the other person is saying, that there's good times where you're going to have to say, we agree to disagree, because this doesn't affect our relationship at a level where we can't progress forward, so that's important to know.
I love that. I love that so much. And it highlights that, you're an individual, you exist outside of it too. And having those, you're allowed to have a hobby that's just your own hobby, right? You don't have to share everything with this person too. So I love everything you're saying.
I'm kind of loving the love. Just like this feels like promoting a happy relationship, like within. Okay, so that's been so helpful to get this information from you both. And so one question, and it's really my last question for you, but it carries a lot of weight to it. What should someone do if they feel like they might not be in a healthy relationship? If they feel like maybe they are potentially in an unhealthy relationship, what should they do? Who can they talk to?
Yeah, definitely. So, I think it's more common than we think. And I know it's more common in with young people too, with teens. And I want to highlight that. That's a real big problem, teen dating violence, that we don't take seriously, I think, enough. So if you do find yourself that you're thinking that you're in an unhealthy relationship, you're seeing red flags, please reach out. The Victim Service Center is here. We have a 24-hour helpline, of course. It can be answered by Monique right here, and one of our other, crisis counselors too. I also have some other things, like, for example, Love is Respect is specifically for younger people who want to reach out. I know the National Domestic Violence Hotline is there. Also, if you're part of the LGBTQ plus community and you want to reach out to someone who is also part of that community, you can reach out to the Trevor Project. And if you are someone who identifies as trans, you can reach out to Trans Lifeline as well. You're definitely not alone, is basically what I want to say. There's all these resources out there, and we're ready to help.
Thank you so much. Just to add real quick, sorry, I feel like you're going to say something, Monique, but
No, it's okay.
Those are wonderful resources, and that's something that we will include in the description or comments in the video below, so you all can refer to any of those, as well as, here's my daily plug. Please feel free to reach out to the Mental Health Association if you're having any questions, or you're looking to, if you want to try to get set up with a counselor. These are some things that you want to talk about. And again, going back to the healthy relationships, even if you're in like an unhealthy relationship, like with a family member or friend, it can help for you to be able to talk to someone about that. So that was something I just wanted to add to both of your comments. Monique, go.
No, I completely agree. I think it's important that you reach out to someone, ask those questions, even if you're unsure. Like she said, reach out to the mental health association, ask them the questions. There's someone there to give you that information that you need so that you can make the best decision, because the bottom line, this comes to self-care. So that's what happens when you start feeling like, I'm not in a healthy relationship, I need to think about what to do. Well, now you need to talk about your mental health well-being, your emotional well-being, and your physical well-being. And if those particular boundaries are being broken, then there's an issue there, and we need to help you be able to repair that. You need to get that together. So contact us, reach out. We'll be there to support you for sure.
Definitely. Thank you both so much. So that is all the questions I have for you. Was there anything else that you wanted our audience to know or you wanted to add? And you covered a lot today.
Yeah. I just want to reiterate that, there's a lot of components to healthy relationships. And I think we all can just kind of do, we can always be bettering ourselves, just like Monique was kind of saying, asking us are those questions. And at the same time, learning more about ourselves, of what helps me stay safe, feel safe. And it's okay to make those boundaries change too. So it's okay to revisit those. That's normal for boundaries to change, especially in long-term relationships. So just keep asking yourself those questions and make sure that you're keeping yourself safe.
Thank you. Monique, anything to add, or did she about cover it?
She covered it. I agree 100% with everything she said. I'll just say ditto to that.
Well, yeah, no, she just knocked it out of the park.
Yes, she did.
But I really want to touch on what you just said about how, especially in a long-term relationship, like boundaries can change. And I think that's an important thing to consider, that it's not just a one and done kind of thing.
Right.
4 years go by, you're in a relation. I know my relationship has changed in 4 years, and things that we did or were both equal on back then. I mean, you grow with the person you're with. You grow with your family. You grow with your friends.
Right.
So it's natural for that, not only that dynamic to change, but with that associated boundaries as well.
Right.
So thank you for that. And thank you both so much for being here. I always love, getting people back on the show who've been before. Monique, it was a pleasure having you. I hope we get to bring you back again sometime. Thank you all so much for watching at home, at work, on your phone, wherever you are. But we love getting to do this show with you. If you have any topics you'd like to see us discuss, please reach out to us at the Mental Health Association. And please, if you need anything in regards to, again, healthy relationships, trauma, domestic violence, please look into the Victim Service Center. They're wonderful people, whether it's an educator like Emilie or a crisis counselor like Monique. They're a team of very dedicated individuals who are all passionate about what they do. So with that, I will let you all go. But thank you so much, and I will see you next time.
Thanks, Faith.
Bye. Thanks for having us.